What's going on, guys? Well, we're Chels back again with another video for you guys. I hope you're all having a lovely day slash evening. This video here is a massive collab that I got lined up for you guys. Today, we have returning guest, Eunice Talks Football. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me back on. How are you?
It's good to have you on, man. I'm good as well. And
Good.
we've got a special today, Alison, top journalist, and I'm very excited to be speaking to you today. How are you?
Hey guys, yeah, I'm good, thanks. Fresh from my Stamford Bridge trip. Feeling all right about it actually, because I know we didn't get the win, but I think a point against Tottenham's all right. I know we'll get more into it, but thanks for having me on.
For sure. Tell us about the experience in the stadium. In fact, you was there last night, of course. Very different, of course.
Yeah, it's really sad. It's just so weird. So just in case anyone doesn't know, I've been working for Chelsea TV for years and years, since 2008. So Stamford Bridge is my home basically. I spent a lot of time in that building, and there's always fans around. And going to the game is part of the experience for me, because I always bump into Pat Nevin and Jason Cundy and all the kind of the Chelsea guys, and the fans always come
Yeah.
up to me, and it just feels really nice. And then going to a game now just feels so weird. I mean, it's nice. I feel like I drive in and I park my car in Stamford Bridge, which feels surreal. I saw that great Mason Mount mural outside for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Bumped into the club photographer actually taking some pics of that. But it just feels so strange. And when you get inside, I mean, if you look on my Twitter, which is Ali Bender TV, it was so ironic and weird, but they were playing Park Life, and it was all the people, so many people. And as you look around, there's just no one there. I was like, who chose that? Is this DJ got a sense of irony? It just doesn't feel right, does it? But it's the way that football's got to be played right now. And of course, the next home game against Leeds, there will be some fans, which I still think is going to be very strange, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll see how that one is. Is it very different when you like do they do a lot of checks when you get in and stuff, or just a regular temperature check and just hand you on stuff, or
Yeah, quite a few checks. I mean, when you first drive in, you wind your window down and they do the forehead temperature check. And then you fill out your wellness questionnaire, which basically asks, if you've been into contact with anyone, blah, 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 all those questions. And then it just feels very sterile, because there's all these barriers, basically. And the dog's still there, the sniffer dog. And it's like, I got to know him quite well. I'm thinking, like, you must know the smell of me. Like, seriously, I've seen you here for years. So yeah, you do all that stuff, but then you go through these barriers basically all the way in, and you just have to keep obviously 2 meters from everyone. And it's just, I know Frank Lampard, I know Joe Edwards and Jody Morris, but you can't get near anyone to talk to them because you're behind a mask. I've just had fringe cuts and no one recognizes me when I'm wearing my mask, because you can just see this.
Yeah.
I'm literally like, hi guys. It's weird. And when a goal scored, not that I saw any last night, that's surreal, because it's like, did I just see that? Because no one really celebrates. I mean, the players kind of celebrate a bit, but there's obviously no noise.
noise. Yeah.
It's just so weird. The one thing I'll say actually, and I'm really excited about it, and again, I put a few videos on my social media. I was really lucky because I was sat right behind the substitutes bench, and to see the way that the subs communicate is just amazing. As Pilaqueta is phenomenal. He looks kind of like mild-mannered, but when he gets into it, I mean, he was literally running the game. He was doing play-by-play commentary throughout the whole match. Kepa is really outspoken as well, which, given the situation he's in, is pretty impressive, right? Quite a few. I'm trying to think who else was. Giroud was having a few, sort of shouts, and yeah, it was just really interesting that they're actually telling the players what they should be doing.
No, it's definitely good to hear. I think the chemistry between the players this season is very good and very high. And for the last few years, it's been a bit down in my opinion, ups and downs, but massive improvement. Eunice, what was your take on the game yesterday? 0-0. Would you have taken that before the actual game?
I mean, with the way that we've been playing recently, we've been on a really good form. So I've always thought, coming into this game, especially at the Bridge, we knew how Jose was going to set Spurs up. So I really thought we had everything there for the taking, as in, we can go and get 3 points. I think this is going to be a situation in hindsight where we look back at it the same way we look back at the Man United game now. So when that game went down and it finished 0-0, we all thought, well, that was flat. We didn't really take it to them. We should be winning this game. But now we look back, and that kind of was a bit of a catalyst to find the balance that we were lacking. So now we look back and we think, you know what? Not a bad result. I think it's going to be the same. If we go through December, which is going to be crazy, we've got 8 games to play in a month. So I think if we get through that into January and it's all positive, then we look back at the Spurs game as an afterthought. But there were aspects in that game where I think, especially the second half, where you could see Jose just set his team up to take the 0-0. No matter what he says after the game, he said, "Oh, we're not happy." No, you're very happy with a 0-0. We know you are.
Davies, for example. That was late on, but that said it all, didn't it?
It did. And now he's using the whole small horse talk that he did for us back in 2014. So we knew he's happy with a 0-0. So I did think there was an aspect there in the second half. If subs had been made earlier, I think we could have won the game. But 0-0 is not the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know you was probably the biggest Jose fan that I knew personally.
Yeah, I was.
You must have thought he's going to part the boss. You must have thought he's going to part the boss the entire game. Definitely, for sure. Performances wise, Tammy Abraham, of course. I don't know what it is. I feel like when Tammy's playing, we put a lot of crosses in. When Giroud comes on and if he starts, we don't see those crosses. I don't know if it's just me. Alison, what do you think?
Yeah, it was really interesting actually. I was just catching up on Match of the Day too, and they looked into Tammy Abraham and how few goals he scored from crosses, and they were talking about how he's much better kind of running onto the ball and that kind of thing. And there were so many. I mean, the one that just keeps standing out to me is that beautiful cross from Reece James, and Tammy just wasn't quite able to get on it, make the correct kind of contact with it. It's a tricky one, and I kind of agree with Younes as well. Like, I mean, at half time, I was saying, you've probably got to bring on Giroud or Pulisic, and obviously both of them were brought on, but perhaps a little bit too late to make any kind of impact. But then I can understand where Frank was coming from, because he was probably thinking, this is exactly how I wanted it to play out. We're keeping it tight. I mean, I always knew, like Frank did as well, like it was going to be a game like this, and it was going to have a last-minute winner from one of the two sides. I mean, it could have been Son. When Son went off, I was delighted, because I was like, well, at least he can't score the winner now. I mean, it was in the 90th plus 2 minute or whatever, but still, you just know that
know.
There was going to be some quality. Mason Mount had a chance, didn't he? And Lloris saved it later on. So I just thought, you've got really good attacking quality players on both sides, and one of them is going to win it. So actually, I was kind of pleased that Frank did what he did, and yes, he made those changes late, but he was still going with that game plan and hoping. Sorry, I didn't really answer your question. I went off on a tangent, but yeah, I think right. It's like, there was I think Giroud did get one chance, didn't he? He didn't quite connect with it in the way that we normally see, and obviously you have to tap again. But I actually think, like, this is a weird narrative for me, because I'm like, suddenly we need Giroud more than ever, and it's coming up to January transfer window. Maybe Lampard's going to start using him a little bit more, and he might feel a little bit more like he can impress Deschamps ahead of the Euros, and maybe he will stay, because I do actually think we need that experience and that clinical finishing. And I know it's greedy to kind of hang on to him, but this could be the perfect situation to keep him at Stamford Bridge, right?
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. I feel like Tammy has improved on the ball, especially since last year. I feel like I've seen a lot more footwork from him, especially in the first half. He was making decent runs and stuff like that. But yeah, just like you said, crosses, just a small improvement. But he's still young. He'll get there for sure. And Giroud, I feel like, games are coming thick and fast, like Younes has been saying. I'm going to need him to be starting some games, and maybe even as a super sub. Timo Werner, I feel like he's being burnt out a little bit, Younes. I feel like he's being played central, left wing, but hopefully Pulisic comes back very, very quickly and starts playing a lot more.
Yeah, no, I really hope so. I do want to see Timo a little bit more central. On the left-hand side, I think he's done really well, considering the circumstances and, the fact that he's not a natural winger, but he's done a really good job then. For anyone that's trying to undermine him, he's got multiple goals and multiple assists playing on that left-hand side. So it's not like he's not been contributing. But yes, it's going to burn him out, and he does look a little bit fatigued and tired from it, which was one of the reasons why I wanted yesterday to perhaps seem a little bit more central after Pulisic was introduced into the game, but Frank had taken him off and then brought on Giroud later on, which again was another way that we could approach it. Again, a little bit, maybe perhaps too late. Although I do hear Alison's point. I think you do raise a good point in the fact that, one team's going to win it. And if you do make the changes too early and you exploit yourself too early, then Jose is not stupid. He is someone that can try and exploit that. So that's a really good point. But Werner, I think, hopefully, we see a little bit more central. And then he's able to rotate with Giroud. Frank Lampard's already said that with the running that we have, Giroud will be starting games. So that's really good for Giroud to hear. So hopefully that convinces him to stay at the club, because I agree we do need someone with experience and someone with his ability. But Werner, I think, will come really good. I think, anyone that's trying to say he's struggling, no. When he plays more central and Pulisic starts to get into his rhythm and he finds his starting place on the left-hand side, Werner doesn't have to play there anymore. I think we're going to see multiple goals from Timo Werner. I'm confident with him, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, very unlucky on the offside goal. Just
very unlucky. Very unlucky.
It was such a good goal.
It was a great goal.
We've seen Werner miss a few lately, and one of the things actually I was speaking to on another podcast about this, about that he never seems to let his confidence drop, even when he misses opportunities. Right, you get something we know. We've seen Torres, we've seen Shevchenko. We've over the years we know about players losing confidence.
Morata, right? Yeah,
and Morata, perfect example. But he doesn't. He keeps his confidence there. And like you say, even though people are saying he's struggling, you've only got to look at his goals and assists and how good he's been for us. This is a player, and this is a player who's coming into the Premier League for the first time. It normally takes players time to settle. I've been really impressed with all the new signings, to be honest. Like, Chilwell just looks so comfortable there. Thiago Silva, another great leader. Yeah. And by the way, going back to that whole substitute thing, it shows me that we have really good leaders, actually. That kind of how vocal they are, I think, is really massively important. But yeah, Werner, it's just so unfortunate that he was offside. And I spoke to Lampard actually afterwards. I got an interview with Lampard, and I asked him about offsides. I said, Frank, are we seeing too many in the Premier League, not just for Chelsea, marginal offsides? And because of VAR, obviously, they're always going to be offside, even if it's by a toenail or whatever it is. But he said, actually, you know what, of all the VAR, of all the technology that we have and what VAR is used for, he said, actually, don't mess with offsides. He said, I'm quite happy with it. People just have to suck it up. And he said, yeah, it didn't go in our favour this time round, but he doesn't agree with the clear daylight margin of error. He doesn't like it. So he said, don't mess with it. So that was interesting to hear his views on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too clear on that situation. Mendy, very similar stats to Cech when he first started his Chelsea career. I think it's 11 games, only 3 conceded, 8 clean sheets. Very impressive at the back. I don't know if you remember the heart attacks on both sides. Giroud missing that chance, and then this also could have stolen it or given a better pass. What's your take, Alison, on Mendy? Did you expect this, basically? Because I personally didn't expect it.
No, I mean, I love him. He's a great player, but how disappointing for Kepa, the most expensive goalkeeper. And it was a really big call for Frank Lampard, but he's made the right call. He had to bring in someone of experience. And how amazing as well, the fact that, we've got Cech on the roster as well, which is just mental. And, could he come in front of Caballero at some point? You never know.
We've seen it once, at least.
It's crazy. But Mendy has just looked... Do you know, it's the confidence. I noticed that a lot of players passed back to him a lot during that game last night as well, really confidently, in a way that I just don't know whether they would have done in the same way with Kepa. And obviously, it breeds confidence throughout, because it's like, you know that the back's solid, and then you know that the defenders are doing their job, and then the midfielders feel more comfortable. And it just seems to have been like permeating through the squad, this confidence, because of him. And I just loved watching Mason Mount with his arm around him. He looks like he doesn't speak much English at all. But the fact that he feels so comfortable and he's been welcomed in, he just looks really calm, doesn't he? I mean, I've been so impressed with him so far.
Definitely. I mean, very impressive. Long arms, does the basics. And I feel like that's what Chelsea fans needed. Younes, who has stood out the most for you out of these signings, personally, from what you've seen this season?
That's difficult because I'm with Alison on that. I think all of our signings have been amazing. They all bring something that we were lacking last season, and in order to pinpoint one, I think could be a little bit unfair to the others. Although, in terms of really standout performances, I would have to say Mendy, for one. We were seriously lacking defensively, and it doesn't help a defense when they don't have that much faith or confidence in the goalkeeper as well, and it's vice versa. So I think with Mendy, it brings that huge element of security and calmness. So Mendy's done fantastic. I think Chilwell at left back has been vital.
Yeah.
We have a left back that's able to play both parts of the game, offensively and defensively, and with good composure. So Chilwell, Ziyech, I think, is someone that has just, when he first came, we had the injury scare, but now he's been reintroduced. I just think he's just different gravy, really. It's just he brings so much elegance and so much. There's that one thing about a left-footed right winger that's cutting into the middle or pinging crosses into the box with his left foot, which we've been lacking since, you could say, maybe Juan Mata, Ian Robben were the only two that could do it for Chelsea in the past. Ziyech and again Timo Werner as well. It's really hard to pick one. I think all of them have brought something to the table, and collectively we just have something special, like building and forming and developing. Considering it's their first season at Chelsea and in the Premier League, I'm looking forward to seeing next season, the season after. So I can't just pinpoint one. I think all of them have done amazing.
Maybe more signings to come very soon. Alison, do you agree with that?
Totally, yeah, I completely agree. And actually, I'd say that's the best bit of it. The fact that Frank Lampard's made these signings in all different areas. And as you say, they've been exactly what we needed in each of those areas. And it's all worked. I mean, it's just so incredible. Like, I just thought there might be problems. Like, I don't know, I thought maybe Thiago Silva might find the physicality a problem or settling or whatever it might be. But there's just seems to be like this, it's just clicked. And then also the formation as well, the 4-3-3, because I think a few people wondered whether Frank might go 3 at the back again like he did when he sprung a surprise on Spurs last season. But it seems like this 4-3-3 is working really nicely. And I can't pick it either. I mean, Chilwell really, really scared actually at the end of the game, because Chilwell went over on his ankle, didn't he? It looked really bad at one point, and I was a bit nervous because I thought that this is the one thing we don't want to lose anyone right now when it's working really well. But the great thing is we've got such strength in depth as well. Like, you look all over and it's almost hard to pick your best 11 because there are so many different combinations, particularly in the midfield. Who would I say is the best? I gave an answer on the podcast the other day and I can't even remember who I said, because like Younes, I've been impressed with all of them really. Mendy, I suppose, is the area we needed the most. Let's say, Mendy's where we needed the most. So I'd say probably him.
Yeah, Mendy for sure. I was watching Sky Sports yesterday. Talking about Hakim Ziyech, giving his crosses too early, and it's someone that I was, one of my favorite players for sure. Do you think he does do his crosses too early? Because some of them weren't going through. I know he made, I think, one less chance than Tottenham did all game. I think that was but I didn't feel like his crosses were as effective. Maybe just one towards Tammy that couldn't flick it on in the first half. But Alison, what do you think of Hakim Ziyech's delivery so far? Of course, at the start of the season, very, very perfect. But yesterday, do you think was as good, or?
Do you know, it wasn't something I particularly noticed. I'd have to go back through the game and pay particular interest in that area, because I feel like we weren't as clinical as we have been in some other games. So I don't know. It was a combination of the crossing and the finishing for sure. I don't know. Younes, what would you say?
I kind of agree. I don't think there was a big problem. The only thing that there was an issue with was the amount of Tottenham men in the box. So Ziyech's crosses into the box for me wasn't a problem. But the fact that every time he did cross into the box, the chances are it was going to land to a Tottenham man. You could tell, especially in the second half, I think Jose had Tottenham set up to just pack out the box because we knew that every time we'd go on the attack, we rarely went down the middle. We always went down the wings. And if you're going to utilize Ziyech, you just know he's going to get it onto his left foot. He's going to cross it into the box. So Tottenham really packed out their area, and it did make it a little bit more difficult for us to take advantage of the ball in the air. Which, again, you look back and you see Tammy Abraham missing the couple of headers, and that's probably why that's in our memory, because those were one of our few chances in the air. So, no, I wouldn't say Ziyech had an issue. Although he was heavily marked, I don't think he had much of an issue. I think it was just the fact that Tottenham heavily defended. That's it.
Yeah, for sure. Well said, guys. We've got a few questions from Twitter before wrapping up. We've got Mike D asking, how far do you think we'll go in the Champions League, Younes?
Champions League, I've always said the target should be semi-final, just as the target. Not necessarily we are going to make it, but if we want to develop from last season, the aim should be to try and reach a semi-final, because I think we have the squad. If we get past the last 16 into the quarters, great. Quarter-final for me this season should be the minimum expectation, just to make it one step further from last season. But the semi-final should be the aim, the objective. And if we can go further, then great. But I'm going to say let's go with a semi-final and be a bit optimistic.
And are we a little horse in the Premier League title race?
I'd say a little bit bigger than Jose's ponies. As he said, his words, not mine.
For sure. Alison, what's your take? Where do you think Chelsea should go in the Champions League and Premier League this season?
Yeah, I mean, I've been so impressed with Chelsea in the Champions League so far this season. Obviously, already qualified with games to spare, and some really decent performances as well. And I know that when the draw was made, I think everyone was like, Krasnodar, but then they said, but travelling at that time of year, that distance with all the games, it's going to be a real problem, and didn't look like a problem at all. So, and it's also allowed us to, be able to keep the squad happy, bring in players such as Giroud, who's been so important as he was against Rennes. And, I feel like all the English sides were doing really well the Premier League sides were doing really well in the Champions League, except for Liverpool in their last game. Had a disappointment. What was that, against Atalanta? So, I think we could go. I mean, semi-final, you should be delighted. I mean, crikey, Frank Lampard's first season as a Premier League manager, if he was to get to a semi-final, I think that is massively punching and great with the squad. I guess we should be. But I'd be delighted with a quarter-final even. Just you're reaching those last. And as we know with the Champions League in the past, it's a process, isn't it? And you almost, sometimes we've had like the very best seasons and we've just been a bit unlucky. And then you almost have to have that bad luck to kind of almost progress year after year, I think, and that's what happened to Chelsea in the past. So if we're sort of knocking on the door, if we're getting quarterfinals and semi-finals, we should have a Champions League in us within the next 5 years, a Champions League win. I don't see why not. I mean, we've got a really good balance of the squad. We've got really nice experience and youth. So I'd say a win within the next 5 years, and maybe quarters or semis this season.
For sure. And Premier League, do you think we can challenge for sure in the title race?
I mean, this is a season that we've got to take advantage of. I mean, Arsenal are having an absolute shocker. Manchester United. I mean, crikey, what on earth is going on with Arsenal at the moment? We always kind of saw these teams. We were sort of in and around. Manchester United, and they're having a bad time as well. Even Liverpool and Manchester City, although actually table position they're not doing badly. They can be got at. They're not this kind of unbeatable team. So if there's going to be any season where you've got to be at it, it's this one, because anything can happen. And also because of the pandemic, because of no fans, because of all the crazy things that can happen. I mean, half a squad could test positive for COVID, and we still play. Right. That's what's so ridiculous. Like, as long as you can put your under 21, your young players in and keep playing. So we could have a really surreal season, and we have to be in contention game by game so that we can potentially go on and win it. I mean, crikey. If Lampard is able to pull that off, manager of the century. I mean, he's already 4-1 up 3-1 against Jose Mourinho in terms of games won. I nearly gave him a win yesterday because it did feel a bit like a victory in a strange kind of a way. But we're not we're not Liverpool, we're not Manchester City, but we're not that far off it.
We're not too far off. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Last question from Mo. He asked the ticket £75 for Chelsea fans. Surely that has to be changed, Eunice.
Yeah, that has to. And I saw the Chelsea Supporters Trust put out a statement, saying that needs to be lowered. And yeah, absolutely. I understand the shed end prices. That's fair, but £75, especially in today's climate where the club are aware, people are losing their jobs, people are finding hardships, people that have their own businesses are, not spending elsewhere because they're trying to save their businesses. You got to take that into contention, considering the fact that Chelsea Football Club are financially stable and, don't need £75 per head. If it's lowered a little bit more just in order to help attract more fans to come to the stadium, considering the limit, £75 is a bit excessive. So I would say lower it, definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure. Alison, I'm sure you totally agree with Eunice on what we're saying there.
So disappointing. Sure. It's like I always want to find ways to be proud of my club. And during the pandemic, when we heard about them sort of helping out and speaking about pay cuts and all the rest of it, you want to feel proud. And it's just everyone's having a really hard time. There's massive levels of depression. There'll be bigger levels of suicide and all. People are having a really hard time. And there are people out there. Football is their life. And I just think it's taking advantage. I don't like it at all. And it's embarrassing that I think I'm right in saying that it's the highest of all the clubs, of all the Premier League clubs, which is, it's a headline. We don't want to be making headlines for the wrong reasons. I really think they need to address that quickly. This is a time that you should actually be giving fans something to be happy about. And you don't want that bitter feeling, because to be honest with you, when those fans get there, they're not going to enjoy it in the way they think they are. It's actually I think it's going to be, or maybe they'll feel special, I suppose, because there's only 2,000 in there, but it's not the same. And it's almost a reminder about how bleak things are. And so, just lower the prices.
For sure. I'm sure they will over time. They'll in the headlines for many good reasons, so I'm sure they'll overturn that one. Guys, thank you for coming on today, very early in the morning. I'm sure you guys have got a busy schedule. Alison, where can we find you? Of course, links will be in the description, but where can we find you?
So the best thing to do is to follow me on social media. I do, I freelance, so I work for all different places, but I'm always posting on social media links to where you can find. So like the Lampard interview that I did last night, you can find it on the YouTube channel of the company that I was working for. So the best way is it's at Ali Bender TV is my Twitter name and my Instagram name as well. Like Eunice, I don't have a YouTube site. I'd love to. One day I was always thinking I'd love to do a collaboration with a YouTuber, because I think that could be quite fun. But at the moment it's just Instagram and Twitter. So yeah, give me a follow.
Soon.
I like interacting with fans. So yeah.
Soon there'll be a YouTube channel, I'm sure. Eunice, look, we already know where you are. Like, you're everywhere. You're on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, I'm sure, YouTube, Eunice Talks Football, everything, right?
Yeah, the standard. We've been there before. So you can find me on YouTube at Eunice Talks Football. My Twitter handle is at EuniceHH, and same goes for my Instagram. But yeah, predominantly my YouTube channel. So
how many subs are you on now?
I've just passed 45,000, I think. So
wow.
45K now.
Yeah,
basically, yeah.
That's immense, man. This guy is legend. Yeah. But guys, look, thank you for coming on. Thank you to everyone listening as well. Please smash that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and hit the bell notification. And see you guys soon. Take care all.
Cheers.